Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome all of you to this Saturday night here for another Rage video, where tonight, ladies and gentlemen, let's take a little bit of a break from doing music reactions for the moment, because I wanted to return to a certain channel that I absolutely love to death. It is called it's in a nutshell. I don't even know how to pronounce the first part. And these guys, they post really provoking sort of science sort of videos, but they also, well, they also provoke very interesting films, short animated films about, you know, about intelligence, about human emotion, about history. There's a lot of stuff to like about this channel. In particular, as we're going to learn today, is what if we decided to nuke the hell out of the moon? Now, I believe there was actually an event, possibly during the height of the Cold War, where the Russians were apparently supposed to blow up the moon, if I remember correctly. It culminated actually in the song "The Whole of the Moon" by the Waterboys, an Irish rock group, if I seem to remember. But apparently that was I'm pretty sure they're going to touch upon that. So if I had to literally guess correctly about what happens if we decide to nuke the moon, fallout, debris, but that's the only things I can really think about at the moment. I think there's also something that has to do with like the waves of the ocean or something like that, but we'll find out very shortly. So if you guys want to check out the original video for yourselves, links will all be in the description down below. Let's begin. What if we decided to nuke the moon in 3, 2, 1, and...
What would happen if we were to detonate a very powerful nuclear weapon on the moon? Would the explosion knock its orbit towards Earth, causing tidal...
I'm going to start off and say that we'll probably need more than one nuclear weapon if we were going to do something like that. Or... in fact, you know, maybe technically only one would be necessary. Depends how powerful it is. Maybe if it had like the strength of about like 75 megatons, then perhaps, because 75 megatons is roughly the size of what it would take to take out a city like Rome or London. So maybe thinking, and then of course there's the fallout, the half-lives, and it would make almost half of Europe completely uninhabitable, probably from nuclear fallout, from an explosion, from a bomb as powerful as that. But then again, there's no wind in space, so where on earth would all the fallout travel to? If it's these sort of things you've got to think about.
Waves and misery. Could the moon be destroyed, showering the Earth in a rain of meteoric death? During the Cold War, the moon was a major target for space exploration and, you know, military bases. So, the US Air Force commissioned a serious study into the effects of a nuclear detonation on the surface of the moon. But just quoting stuff is boring, so let's conduct a very important scientific experiment with an imaginary 100 megaton thermonuclear warhead about...
I wasn't too far off from what it would take to launch.
Twice as powerful as the most powerful bomb ever detonated. We'll also place a number of curious astronauts around the moon as observers. Let's push the button and slow down time. For the first few milliseconds, nothing much happens outside our weapon. Meanwhile, inside, high explosives send a shockwave to a radioactive metal core, compressing it so much that it reaches criticality and starts a nuclear fission chain reaction. The 100 million degree plasma created in this first stage sets off the second stage, with atomic nuclei fusing like they do in the core of a star. Very briefly, our weapon contains one of the hottest places in the universe. And only now, barely 10 milliseconds later, does the rest of the universe find out that anything has happened, as suddenly the bomb dissolves and a flaming star of nuclear death is born. So far, so good. But everything that happens now is very different from what we're used to on Earth because of one major difference. There's no atmosphere. As the fireball shines, it releases a flash of X-rays and thermal photons, a wave of silent heat which rushes outwards in all directions. On Earth, this heat would char and burn everything within a 50-kilometer radius at least. But on the Moon, without an atmosphere and oxygen-rich air, there's no burning at all. Also, there are no things to burn. The crunchy topsoil of the Moon is made from silicate rock and metals chewed to dust by eons of meteorite impacts mixed with tiny traces of water. When heated by the explosion, X-rays from the fireball vaporize a thin cloud of rock from the lunar surface, while the unlucky dust that's inside the fireball melts into glass. Any astronauts watching the show within about 50 kilometers can expect to be fried. And now we begin to see one of the biggest differences between explosions in space and on Earth. On Earth, the atmosphere fights back against the plasma bubble. Its expansion is violently stopped within moments by the pressure of the atmosphere. But this is not good news. As the fireball rams the atmosphere, it produces the most destructive part of a nuclear explosion on Earth, the shock wave. Compressed air around the explosion rushes out faster than the speed of sound, shattering buildings and roaring so loud it ruptures organs. But on the Moon there is no shockwave. No atmosphere means nothing to impede the expanding explosion in space. On the Moon, the fireball just grows in eerie silence as there's no atmosphere to stop it or to give it a voice. This would be an amazing thing to watch from a safe distance. Unfortunately, there's hardly any safe viewing distance for a nuclear explosion on the Moon. Without an atmosphere weakening the deadly ionizing radiation that can scramble DNA, anyone close enough to get a good look will be exposed to fatal amounts of radiation.
Yeah, if I was to make a suggestion, don't launch the weapon during at night then. Probably on maybe in July when there's no moon, because it's not often, especially in the UK, for the sun and the moon to be out at the same time, but 11 o'clock in the morning or something like that. But yeah, that is... I wonder how far away you would have to be before... I don't even think there is technically such a thing as a safe distance, because if they said if there's no atmosphere and this ball of plasma just continues to grow, then could it not accompany the whole moon, for example, or produce an atmosphere of its own? Well, technically that's not quite true. There wouldn't be an atmosphere. But what if it accompanies into a sphere that is larger than the moon's surface? That's probably why you would have to maybe launch it on the dark side of the moon. The reason why it's even there is even such a phrase as the dark side of the moon is that there's a part of the moon that always faces away from the Earth. So when we're looking at the moon, whether or not we're looking at if we see Wells' crater, for example, we are always going to see Wells' crater on the moon, and it's never going to spin because the moon revolves around the sun and the Earth, but it doesn't revolve on its axis because, again, there's no atmosphere in space. And well, I'm not entirely... I might have to double check that, but that's at least one idea. Is, give Mars, Jupiter, Venus, Uranus, Pluto, Neptune. Well, Pluto's not a planet, but you get the idea. Give them a light show, even though Venus is closer to the sun than we are. So work that one out. They'll probably be wondering what's going on.
Of course, that's not all. While all of this happens, the explosion hammers against the moon, transferring about 1/10 of the explosion energy into seismic waves, powering an intense moonquake. The moon is much smaller than the Earth, and our astronauts will feel an inescapable violent shaking no matter where they're standing. Comparable to an earthquake of 7 on the Richter scale, this shaking could seriously damage or even level infrastructure we might have built anywhere on the moon. Those who hid on the far side of the moon would have no idea it was an explosion. The quaking would feel like an asteroid the size of the Great Pyramid had struck. And it's not over yet. Where our bomb explodes, the ground splatters like water when a rock strikes a pond. As the explosion pushes against the surface, it may excavate as much as 100 million cubic meters of dust and rock, forming a crater 8 kilometers across, while bedrock is pulverized to rubble. Debris is shot into the sky in every direction. Again, without an atmosphere, there's no drag to slow any of it down. Much of the debris scattered never returns to the moon, flying off faster than escape velocity. A flurry of micrometeorites have been cast off to explore the solar system, many of which will rain down on the Earth, though few will be larger than pebbles. Any satellite, astronaut or space station in the way, though, will have a really bad time. Micrometeorites are launched at many speeds and angles, allowing them to spread all over the surface of the moon. Like bullets, they'll punch through our curious astronauts no matter where they stand. Finally, our explosion comes to an end. On Earth, the fireball rises like a hot air balloon, forming a sort of stalk. As it reaches up, cooler air is drawn in around it, rounding the top into a mushroom cloud. But on the moon, well, you know by now, no atmosphere, no mushroom. The larger the plasma gets, the cooler it becomes, and the less energy it has to make interesting or terrifying things happen. Within seconds of pulling the trigger, the bubble reddens and fades from view. It would be visible from the Earth like a star flickering to life, only to fade out right away. A spark and then nothing. As the cloud of tiny debris reaches far above the surface of the moon, it's illuminated by the sun for a few minutes, giving it an eerie beauty for anyone left to observe the spectacle. What about the moon's orbit? It's basically unchanged. Trying to move the moon with a nuke is like trying to move a truck by blowing on it. Nuclear explosions may be big, but space is bigger. Our mighty explosion just leaves another crater, one among millions. Still, anyone on the moon will continue to not enjoy themselves. The material that ends up raining back to the moon is radioactive, and without any natural processes to wash it away or bury it, the surface of the moon will remain contaminated. Although fortunately the worst of the radiation will have decayed to a level comparable to natural levels from cosmic rays in about a year. In conclusion, we can say with confidence that while the moon itself does not care about being nuked, and will barely notice, using the moon as a nuclear test ground kind of ruins it for everyone trying to spend some time there or to build something useful. So maybe we should just not do that. This was our last video of the year 12,020, and oh dear, what an interesting and weird year it's been in all the worst ways. But it's finally over. We want to end it by saying thank you. We get to do this channel and work on many exciting things because of you burbs. This year, our German channel reached 1 million subscribers, we launched our Spanish one, and released our first app.
Ooh.
If everything goes well, we can finally start our largest new project to date next year, but we know better than to promise too much. All of this works because you support us directly. Thank you so much. We genuinely appreciate it. If you want to help us out too and get something cool in return, to the tune of nuking the moon, we've made a new minimalistic infographic poster about the moon and how incredibly far away it is. Also, there's a baby duck, our cutest plushie yet, a new Duck and Friends enamel mug, our new Ocean Explorer notebook, and so much more. All made with love and care. Let us know what you like and we'll make more of it. Okay, let's wrap up this video and this year. Thank you again for watching and caring and sharing. We hope that you slide peacefully into the year 12,021. Let's all hope it will be a really boring year.
Thank you. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, that was the experiment of what if we decide to nuke the moon, and the biggest thing we've learned is not doing that thing. What I find quite interesting, ladies and gentlemen, about all of this is that, well, considering there's absolutely, the moon is pretty much uninhabitable to begin with, it would baffle the minds about why there would be, bases or, anything like that on the moon when Mars, in all honesty, with all this news about the Mars rover setting down and whether or not there's going to be any way we can inhabit life on Mars at all, the Matt Damon movie notwithstanding, I gotta say, in all honesty, this just seems like a bad idea, and nobody would prophesize from this. So why did the Russians want to bomb the hell out of this place anyway? Were they hoping that they were gonna just kill Armstrong in space, just so they could commit? In fact, actually, that's a very good point. Is that if you decide to kill somebody on the moon, is that there's no laws in space? Well, not as in the laws we have on Earth. So technically, you're outside from, you know, all that, and you could just get away with whatever you wanted on the moon. It's something to think about that absolutely nobody else would have said under any circumstance whatsoever. Maybe, also, also just to end this video off, and the only way I can think out, maybe that's the reason why Gus Grissom like went up to the moon, went up to space twice. I think he left his car keys somewhere. So yeah, I think it's fair to say, ladies and gentlemen, with all this taken into account, the best thing we could take away from this video is that just because you can does not mean you should, even and especially including decide to bomb the hell out of anything, let alone the moon. It'd be a waste of power to launch 100 megatons. And what if something happens on liftoff and the rocket fails and a bomb of 100 megatons explodes on Earth? That's a really, really bad idea. So let's try and... I don't even think there would be a government that would be crazy enough to even attempt such a thing like that anyway. Because when you really think about it, a rocket is basically a giant bomb anyway, only you sit on it. So make of that what you will. So anyway, I hope you guys have enjoyed this reaction video. Please leave your thoughts and comments in the comment section down below. Let me know what you guys thought of the In a Nutshells video of what if we decided to bomb the hell out of the moon for, as far as I can work out, absolutely no reason whatsoever. Please also make sure to also like and subscribe to get daily notifications when my videos come out, and I hope to see all of you guys again in the next video. Take care, bye bye for now.